Story of Tulsi Devi, Part 6. Tulsi Devi and Krishna reunited. Characters and ideas. The Gandaki River, which is located between Nepal and Tibet, is the manifestation of Tulsi Devi here in this world. The Viraja River is also a manifestation of Tulsi Devi, but in the spiritual world. And Vajrakita, Vajra means thunderbolt, Kita means insect or worm. The Vajrakita insect is a worm that chews through stone. So, Shankachyuta has been killed by Lord Shiva, his body thrown in the ocean. The demigods have received their kingdom. Their property has been returned to them. Tulsi Devi is in the palace. She realizes that this person in front of her, who resembles her husband Shankachyuta, is actually not so. And when she realizes this, obviously she is completely astonished, bewildered, upset, and she says, "Who are you? You are not my husband." And Krishna revealed himself, Vishnu revealed himself. And when Tulsi Devi saw Narayan, Vishnu, standing before her, realizing what had happened, she fainted, essentially. And Vishnu revived her, and she was so upset, she said, "How could you do this? You take the form of my husband just so that you can benefit the demigods, and you essentially use me because my husband's prowess, my husband's invincibility came from my total and complete devotion to him. And because you could not defeat him, not even Lord Shiva could defeat him on the field of battle, you actually caused harm to me just because no one could defeat my husband. How could you possibly do this?" And Vishnu replied, he said, "My dear Tulsi Devi, Shankachyuta prayed and wanted you specifically for his wife. And that benediction was granted to him. You also prayed for a husband to have me as your husband. And that has also now been fulfilled. So everyone has absolutely received precisely what they wanted. Granted, not in the way everyone would have thought, but everyone received what they wanted." Tulsi Devi was unimpressed. She said, what does that mean? How can you still have the heartlessness? First of all, Shankachyuta was your devotee. Shankachyuta was a Vaishnava and worshipped Vishnu. How could you possibly do that to him and to me? That makes no sense. I therefore curse you. You are a hard-hearted individual. You have a heart of stone. I therefore curse you to exist as cold and as hard as your own heart. May you exist as a stone. And just as you have compromised me, the Vajrakita stones, who have teeth like thunderbolts, will chew into you and carve into your stone-like body various indentations. And when Vishnu heard this, he accepted entirely with Tulsi Devi's curse. And this is the hallmark of both Vishnu, Krishna, and Vaishnavas, the devotees of Krishna. Krishna accepts in full all responsibility, does not try to blame others, does not try to criticize others or get out of taking responsibility for anything he has done. As Vaishnavas, we practice the same, we follow the same example of Lord Krishna. As Vaishnavas, we take full responsibility. All the stories of the great Vaishnavas throughout the Puranas and Mahabharata, Ambarish, and so on and so forth, all take responsibility for their actions. They do not blame, they do not try to deny, they take full and complete responsibility. Even Krishna takes full and complete responsibility for his actions when Krishna is completely beyond, can completely deny, can completely negate any responsibility or the consequences of what Krishna chooses, right? We see this also in the Mahabharata when at the end of the battle of Kurukshetra, it's described that Gandhari, Krishna came to ask for forgiveness. All the Pandavas did. The surviving members of the Pandava army came to see Gandhari after Duryodhana and all the sons were killed. She was completely distraught. When Krishna came to touch Gandhari's feet, Gandhari, of course, was blindfolded. She had always worn a blindfold from the moment she knew she would be married to a blind king, Dhritarashtra. But from beneath the blindfold, she could see very, with a sliver of the blindfold, she could see just the toenails of Krishna. And her upset, her fury, anger, despondency, everything was just so intense that just her gaze alone deformed, it is described, the toenails of Krishna. Now, of course, Krishna has no reason for Krishna to have to accept that, right? Gandhari had said to Krishna, Krishna, you are the Supreme Personality of Godhead. You could have completely avoided this carnage because you are the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Why didn't you stop this from happening? Now all my sons are killed because you talk so much about Dharma. You allowed this war to take place, and now all my sons are killed. This is entirely your fault. Now, of course, we know Gandhari and Dhritarashtra, from the very conception of Duryodhana, were advised that Duryodhana was going to cause problems for the entire dynasty. And it's entirely due to their permissiveness, their enabling of Duryodhana, that the tragedy came to be. Right? So it was really the lack of parenting of Dhritarashtra and Gandhari. But so it was not Krishna's fault by any stretch of the imagination in that sense. But Gandhari does have a point. Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and though Krishna chooses not to interfere with the choices we make, it is a plausible argument that as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he is responsible. So Krishna accepted the fury of Duryodhana and accepted the deformity of his toenails. This is Krishna. This is the mark of a Vaishnava, followers of Vishnu. We accept full and complete responsibility for our words, our actions, our deeds. We do not deny, we do not blame others, we do not try to get out of the responsibilities and the consequences of our activities. So similarly, Vishnu, receiving the curse of Tulsi Devi, said, yes, as you wish. I will live as a stone, and I will endure the biting and the penetration of the thunder-like teeth of the Vajra Kita worms. But know also, Vishnu continues to Tulsi Devi, that you have prayed and done so many austerities to have me as your husband, that is now come to pass. From now on, no one can deny that you and I are as one. I will not accept any offering from my devotees that is not accompanied by a leaf from your tree, from the Tulsi tree. Tulsi Devi obviously becomes mollified because her intention was to be married to Vishnu. And she became overjoyed and really resumed her eternal mood, if you will, as Tulsi Devi of the spiritual world, and was reunited with Vishnu. However, Saraswati saw this and she became a little jealous. And at one point, she picked the fight, if you will, with Tulsi Devi. She said, Tulsi Devi, how can you are actually not a companion of Vishnu. Just because of some trickery, you were connected with Lord Vishnu, but there's no that's not a real marriage. That's not a real relationship. And Saraswati Devi began to criticize and argue with Tulsi Devi. And Tulsi Devi, I mean, in many ways, what Saraswati was saying was correct, but it was really born out of envy and jealousy. And Tulsi Devi was answering back that no, I've always I engaged in austerity for hundreds and thousands of reals to get Vishnu as my husband. I had always was going to have Vishnu as my husband, and now it came to pass. And Saraswati was like, no, it came about by trickery. That's not a real relationship. That's not a real marriage. It's just Vishnu is just being kind to you. He's just trying to make you feel good, but this is not a real relationship. Tulsi Devi, she was completely upset and she disappeared. And Krishna was going around looking for Tulsi Devi, could not find Tulsi Devi. And he went to the bank of the Viraja River and he began what we now know as the first Tulsi Puja. Because along the bank of the Viraja River, all are Tulsi plants. So he began doing puja to Tulsi Devi, chanting prayers and mantras to Tulsi Devi, and meditating on Tulsi Devi. So the Tulsi Puja we do now is actually founded by Krishna was the first Tulsi Pujari. So Krishna began to do this Tulsi Puja. And he was doing it more ceaselessly. He just kept on going, kept doing Tulsi Puja, meditating, chanting the mantras to Tulsi Devi. And finally, Tulsi Devi, she was in a nearby, it's described as a tree. It doesn't say whether it was a Tulsi tree or not, but if she was a nearby tree and she came out of that tree and she went running to Krishna. And Krishna embraced her, and Tulsi said, Saraswati is saying this, Saraswati is saying that, Saraswati is saying our relationship is not real. So Krishna says, don't worry, let's have a marriage. And that is the origin of the Tulsi Shaligram Vivaha, the marriage of Tulsi Devi, and Shaligram. So in the material world, Tulsi Devi has her form, is in the form of the Gandaki River between Tibet and Nepal, flows in that area. And within that river are Shaligram Shilas, these stones, these Shaligram stones, black stones. And they have markings in them, described as from the Vajrakita worm. Basically, they have these patterns and marks and indentations in them. And the waters of the Gandaki River never cease to be in contact with these stones within the water. And along the banks of the Gandaki River are Tulsi trees. And similarly, in Goloka Vrindavan, there's a Viraja River, a form of Tulsi Devi, and along that river are Tulsi trees. So this is the story of Tulsi Devi and her pastimes in the material world, her reunification with Krishna. Tulsi Devi has 8 names, and they are as follows. First name is Vrindavani. I should say the first name, but we'll which means she appears and she resides in Vrindavan. Second name is Vrinda, and she appears in plants. That's the plant called Vrinda. Vrinda is the term for a plant, particular type of plant specifically. She is called Vishva Pujita, which means she is worshipped throughout the universes. Vishva means universe, Pujita means worshipped. She is also called Pushpa Sara, meaning she is the best of all flowers. She is called Nandini, in that she gives joy and happiness. She is called Krishna Jivani. She is the life of Krishna. She is called Vishva Pavani. Vishva meaning universe, Pavani means purifier, so she purifies everything in the universe. She is all purifying. And then, of course, she is called Tulasi, which means she is topmost, she is incomparable. And this is the story of Tulsi Devi.